Hi guys, and welcome back to another PNSO review. Before I forget, apologies for taking this long. I'm currently dealing with a couple of issues in my life, so I might not be able to post with the alacrity I'd like, but I have hopes of things getting back to normal in a few months. Anyway, back to PNSO. Seemingly on a roll when it comes to Chinese dinosaurs, and almost on the heels of the two-tongued Tyrannus and the Xinchuanosaurus comes this Sinraptor. I'm just going to call it Sinraptor since the prefix skips the O. The name comes from Latin sino meaning Chinese and raptor meaning robber. Now don't let the name fool you, it's not a dromaeosaurid, but a metricanthosaurids dinosaur from the late Jurassic. Now related to this metricanthosaurus here. And also to Yangchuanosaurus, which you might be more familiar with. Now this is Xinchuan, and at an estimated 7.6 meters or 25 feet by the describing authors, this 22 centimeter or 8.7 inch model is about 1/35, which puts it very close in scale with many PNSOs we've received so far. Happily, Sinraptor actually has pretty good fossil remains, so we have a lot more to go on than the previous Chinese theropod two-tongued Tyrannus. I have to say, when I first saw the release images, I wasn't too keen on it as it looked like a pretty drab and generic theropod. However, in hand, it looks much better because the paint job is more complex than I thought. And when I say complex, I mean that at first blush it looks indeed unexciting, but as you'll see as we move around, PNSO has imbued this with many subtle shades and fades. And as a result, this Sinraptor feels real to me, because in nature we see animals that are generally monotone without lurid colors and patterns, and yet within that monotony, there are many underlayers to them, as expected with real pigment. You'll also see appropriate dry brushing that serves to bring out sculpted detail. There are no stripes in the body, which have almost become a PNSO trope, and that's a relief. But you'll see them highlighting the tail. Again, this is seen in many real animals with just one or two highlighted points of interest, in terms of a splash of color or maybe a bit of pattern. Now, so much for the color, let's get to the detail. Now, it seems almost lazy and even ungrateful to say that the detail is as usual for PNSO, but indeed it is. Now, first, the head. And here you see an example of what I mean about color complexity. Instead of just one general grey, you get lighter mixes of color. Here in the face, a lighter mix of grey with brownish tones in the maxillary jugal area. The correctly modest lacrimal horn to the nasal crest is highlighted very subtly. The dentary starts with a pink-grey before segueing into the main color here. Again, it's lipless, so you have a bit of a snaggle-tooth look to it. The jaw articulates very nicely, and the teeth have a stained appearance that lends realism, with I think some tooth slippage, but it's really nice how they just fit together. And opens up to reveal even more clearly the mouthful of teeth. The oral detail, like the choanal openings, are there. And going down the neck and body, you'll see more of that detail and color complexity. Now this is just really detailed. And also the folds seem to have improved, if that's possible, with more complexity and variety than I recall. there are some irregularly scattered scutes throughout, which blends very well with this grey. And dorsally, we have these spinal scutes lining up top, which look very organic too. The rather robust arms here. Unfortunately, many elements of the hand were missing, but the paper suggests reconstruction along the lines of Allosaurus fragilis would be reasonable. These look pretty powerful and tipped with these dangerous looking claws, which are also very nicely painted, instead of just one flat color as you often see in many models, including some PNSOs in the past. In the thigh, you start to see some subtle patterning. It's really delightful that just by having a different permutations of a few colors, you can achieve a varied and really pleasing effect. The patterns and the color blends here just look really natural. Just look at this detail with the folds in the thigh, and the knee areas, just done so nicely here. Moving down, the tail again looks a little too short, but fortunately I think can be accounted for by this curvature. But still, the terminal end looks a little thin to my eye, but that's really splitting hairs here. In general, I'd say that PNSO theropods could have beefier tails. Alright, so let's do some comparisons. The Carcharodontosaurid PNSO Metricanthosaurus, then Allosaurus, and finally, the customary Wilson T-Rex. So that's it for the Sinraptor. Now this was a model I wasn't going to get at first, but now that I have it, I'm glad I did. It's not just a good representation of this metriacanthosaurid with the usual detail, it's also painted in a realistic color scheme that really doesn't depend on just patterns and flashiness, but a realism in subtlety of application. Theropods aren't a real interest of mine, but for metricanthosaurids, I actually wouldn't mind an updated 1:35 Yangchuanosaurus without the warping problems, and of course, I hope they turn their attention to the Maniraptoran soon. I'd love to see what PNSO can do with Therizinosaurus and the dromaeosaurids. Alright, so that's it for this review. I'll see you soon for another review.